The killing of Alex Preddy is reigniting the debate over gun rights in America. The Minneapolis police chief said Preddy had a permit to carry. But hours after the shooting, U.S. Attorney Bill Esley posted on X, if you approach law enforcement with a gun, there is a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you. Don't do it. Several Trump administration members leaning into that argument.
I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign.
You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence.
I am sorry that this gentleman is dead, but he did bring a 9mm semi-automatic weapon with 2 cartridges to what was supposed to be a peaceful protest.
But the NRA calls that sentiment dangerous and wrong. Joining us now, MS Now political analyst and former Republican governor of Ohio, John Kasich. It's good to see you, Governor. The Border Patrol commander, Greg Bovino, appeared to argue that the Second Amendment did not apply to Alex Preddy in this case. Here's exactly what he said.
We respect that Second Amendment right, but those rights don't count when you riot and assault, delay, obstruct, and impede law enforcement officers, and most especially when you mean to do that beforehand.
There was no sign of a riot, and in addition to that, Gun Owners of America wrote this on X. You can want illegals and criminals off the streets and not want to see permit holders get executed for approaching law enforcement. Governor, how do you see this specific debate?
Well, what I see happening, first of all, I think local law enforcement ought to be the ones that do an investigation here. And then they can make recommendations as to how they feel about this whole issue. But secondly, Chris, if you think about it, I mean, things are coming apart on all sides for the administration right now. You have the NRA and the gun owners against the administration. You have a growing number of Republicans, a significant number of Republicans who are saying, what's happening in Minnesota does not reflect my values. And you have independent voters overwhelmingly saying this doesn't work. So I think this is one issue in terms of a number of things, like what are they doing there? Why can they wear masks? Why can't we identify them? All these things are coming together. But what's critical here is this man, according to every video and everything I've heard from law enforcement people, was not sticking a gun at them. That is not what was happening here. So Chris, I think that the administration is looking for an off-ramp now. The president said just yesterday that, well, you know, they're not going to be there forever, and I'm sending my guy there to see what's going on. I think there are people in the administration who are telling him we are losing big time, and you can see it across all these different groups that I've just mentioned.
I also want to bring in former Democratic Senator of Montana, Jon Tester, also an MS Now political analyst. Senator, we've talked about this before. You're a gun owner. You live in Montana, which has the highest rate of gun ownership in the country. How does what you're hearing from the administration compare with the stance of most gun rights supporters you know?
It's 180 degrees off of reality.
Look, Mr. Preddy had a gun. He had a permit to carry it. He was on the street. So what's coming out of the administration, a violation of our right to video and our right to keep and bear arms. So bottom line is that there evidently is a different standard for Mr. Preddy than there is in the Constitution. And I think it goes against our constitutional rights.
Governor, here's the assessment of Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara of what the administration is saying compared to how he viewed this incident.
It's deeply concerning, the things that are being said. This is an individual that was a city resident. It appears that he was present, exercising his First Amendment rights to record law enforcement activity, and also exercising his Second Amendment rights to lawfully be armed in a public space in the city.
An ICU nurse exercising his First and Second Amendment rights. From a governor's perspective, what do you do if this is happening in your state?
Well, Chris, listen, we had a lot of tragic shootings in the state when I was governor. and we had some shootings involving police up north. And I had a group of actually female African-American legislators who came to see me about it, and they wanted to have a study. I said, we don't have a study. We're going to have a task force, and we're going to get on this right away. And I took my head of public safety, and I took one of the people that came to see me, one of these legislators, you might know her, Nina Turner, and we met throughout the communities to find out what communities wanted. We wanted to explain to them the challenges that law enforcement have, that citizens have a right to express themselves. And I have to tell you, Chris, it worked out beautifully. And I have instructed, or I have advised other people in other cities to study what we did. Look, local law enforcement, in most cases, are very highly trained. In fact, at times we sent the highway patrol to help them to even improve their training. In Minnesota, most of the law enforcement people are outraged by what they see because they don't think the people that are there on the streets are adequately trained. Now, if you get put in a situation that is particularly tense and dangerous and you haven't been trained, you can see what happens. So I happen to think that the chief of police of Minnesota, I've been watching him now for a couple weeks now, he's done a heck of a job in trying to explain things and settle things down. Let's hope the administration is looking for an off-ramp. And if they are, we want to respect law and order. You know that. We can't walk away from it. John Tester feels the same way. But don't violate people's constitutional rights. Respect them, because the power comes from us, not from you down, from us up.
Part of the problem, obviously, for the folks who are Democrats, both in the Senate and the House, as you know, Senator, is that they're not in the majority. But one of the things they may be able to do is make sure that this budget that funds ICE doesn't get passed until they can talk about some of the ways that ICE needs to reassess the way they're operating, maybe even the way Border Patrol is operating. But the bottom line is it could well lead to another government shutdown. What do you make of that as a strategy? For many of the Democrats that I've spoken to, it's that or nothing. They don't have a lot of power in Washington right now.
No, they're in the minority, but the truth is there has to be accountability, and they have to stand up for accountability. And by the way, accountability is good for Democrats, Republicans. It's good for the country. There isn't a lot of accountability going on right now with ICE, and there needs to be. And I will tell you the Democrats need to make sure that there's accountability. And by the way, it should be bipartisan in nature, because accountability in these agencies is critically important. And what we've seen over the last 3 weeks that's happened in Minneapolis is there's very little accountability. In fact, we saw the vice president stand up and say these folks don't have to abide by the law. And I paraphrase, but that's in essence what he said. There has to be accountability. And I'm not for government shutdowns. I think they're stupid. I think the people who end up getting hurt are the American people. But we're seeing government right now that needs a strong dose of accountability because they have none.
Let me ask you in the last minute that we have, Governor, and I should point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm remembering that when you were governor, you signed a law that actually expanded carry rights. People could take guns then, I think, into like churches and restaurants. I think you signed. No?
No, I don't. Look, I am a Second Amendment guy, although the NRA's really never supported me or liked me because I was for a ban on assault weapons. And secondly, I had a whole series of gun reform legislation, including red flag law. So I've kind of been on both sides. I do respect the Second Amendment. I think it needs to be upheld, but there have to be limits to any of this. And that's why, for example, I voted for the assault weapons ban, to the ire of the NRA and everybody else. So in this issue, I don't have any friends, to be honest with you. I didn't get the support of the NRA, nor did I get the support of the police. I've been all over the place on this, Chris, and it's been a little frustrating, but it's okay. When you're a big boy, you gotta be able to take whatever comes.
So is that what has to happen here with some Republicans? Because clearly there is a growing level of discomfort, you know, even based on just political reality, that it's going to come very fast that the midterms are here.
Chris, they just think about red flag law. If somebody thinks that you are not stable and you pose a threat to other people, they ought to enact a red flag law. You can have court proceedings or whatever. It's out of control. And the fact is that, look, what's happening in the country is everybody is now, not everybody, but the biggest chunk of Americans are saying this does not reflect my values. And I absolutely believe that the Republicans in the Congress need to make sure that ICE is held accountable. That's about freedom. And that makes a lot of sense. So I don't see this right now as partisan, and you see more Republicans, including what's his name, Comer over there in the House, is saying, well, maybe we ought to get out of there. So we're beginning to see some changes, and I hope they're permanent. One final thing, if I were the governor, I'd fly to the White House and meet with the president and discuss this and get this thing calmed down before more people are killed and more people lose confidence in the United States of America. That's what I'm worried about. And on my Substack, I told them, contact your congressman, make it clear to them you're going to hold them accountable. That's part of what happens. That's the system. Let's not give up on the system, please.